Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. Training camp is raging. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined today by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak, where we are going to get into all the early camp storylines, including the Steelers increasingly getting closer to already giving up on Russell Wilson. Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb still upset about their contracts. Lots of stuff about Eagles running backs for some reason. Saquon Barkley can play all over the field. Will Shipley is getting first-team reps. We're not concerned about that from Saquon's perspective, but what it can mean about Will Shipley maybe being the number 2. Chase Brown seems like he's blowing by Zach Moss in the depth chart, but yet again, it's July 30th. The pads have barely even gone on. The Colts adding to the narrative that they will not limit Anthony Richardson's rushing. Contract extensions for Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, the 2 undisputed best players in the NFL, are now paid as like the 2 best players in the NFL. A really sensible system we have here. Kyren Williams being the clear number 1, and so much more. If we have time for some other stuff, I'll just start real quick. Did you guys know this? We live in the United States of America. It's a really big place. 50 states, 330 million people. Would you say true or false if I told you there is a Bavarian-themed water park that exists, and I have been there within the past 5 days?
We have a little bit of everything, so I'm going to go with you absolutely spent the weekend there.
Thankfully, it was only 1 day, but in Frankenmuth, Michigan, there is a Bavarian-themed water park, and I've been there. And a shout-out to those people.
Is it made instead of water, do they use beer?
I wish that, they go really hard on the Bavarian theme at this place. We were visiting friends, though, or not friends, family. Well, also friends. Family on Lake Huron in Upper Michigan. And on the way back, we stopped to visit some more of that family in Frankenmuth, Michigan. And there's a Bavarian-themed water park. Just thought people should know.
Does it get hot in Michigan or no?
No. It's freezing cold. Yeah, because, you pull out your phone, it says it's 81. And then like an icy wind blows in. This is not summer.
I was going to say, Denny, this was a ski trip for Pat. He was on the slopes really grinding. This was not a summer trip.
There was a PGA Tour event in Detroit like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Rocket Mortgage. And in the morning, it looked like downright cold. And it was, here in Maryland, it was like 112 degrees. And
the heat index is 110. I got off the plane in St. Louis this morning, and the heat index is 110.
So and I was like, is this like a tape delay? Like, am I watching something from March? What's going on?
Yeah, the Upper Midwest does not do summer, but of course, kids. So we're swimming in Lake Huron, and kids don't notice like temperature differences in water. Like, it's not cold; it feels fine. And every adult is like, take me now.
Oh,
take me now into the depths.
Yeah, I was accused of being, quote, a huge crybaby in Greece because the water was cold. It was cold.
What? In Greece?
In Greece, it was freezing.
Never heard this one before.
No, it felt good sometimes when you were super hot and overheated, but mostly I just didn't like how cold the water is and how salty. Too salty, too cold.
Is this why you got sent home 10 days for the rest of the family?
I did. I complained too much. The family took a vote, and I was gone.
Still hard to believe that for as long as you were gone, your family was still gone even longer.
They're coming back today, folks.
The longest trip to Greece in the history of mankind. The shortest trip to benching a starting quarterback in the history of the NFL by the Pittsburgh Steelers, where every single day goes by, and Mike Tomlin's like, hold on. Let's give Fields a chance. Let's just see. I love the cut of this kid's jib. Yeah. Let's see what's going on here. He's got 5 unread text messages from Russell Wilson. And Russ, he supposedly has the calf injury. It's lingering longer than expected. He's been given up on by Pete Carroll and Sean Payton, 2 of the 21st century's best coaches in the past 2 years. The physical decline is spotted by even the most casual of football observers. Sure. So I feel like we should take this seriously. ESPN's Dan Graziano's report that the Steelers are open-minded about Fields' ability to win the starting job. But then on the other hand, it seemed like the whole league is like, oh, Justin Fields is bad. He's just bad. Like, that was what we got from the trade compensation. That's what all like the anonymous quotes were this summer.
Yeah.
And Denny, I'll just start with you. Where are we at on this? Because we've been joking about it all spring and summer, like, oh yeah, they're going to get tired of Russ in like 2 seconds. Is that like actually happening already?
Let me read you what Dan Graziano from ESPN wrote about the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. He said that it's something of an open competition. The team is open-minded about Justin Fields starting, which we couldn't say that 30 days ago. And certainly not when Russell Wilson was first signed, or when they were both first signed. It was, this is not a competition. It's Russ's job.
For a week. And then remember, Mike Tomlin did kind of throw the door open. And I feel like we just kind of ignored that because the drumbeat has been, Denny, that it's not an open competition.
And so this is what Graziano says, when they say it's an open competition and Fields has a chance, believe them. He says, what if Fields does win the job? The Steelers are only paying Wilson a league minimum $1.21 million for this season. His former team, the Broncos, are paying the rest of his guaranteed $39 million salary. If Fields is named week 1 starter, would Wilson remain as a backup? It's conceivable he'd ask the Steelers to cut or trade him. Wilson's contract with Pittsburgh includes a no-trade clause, which would give him some control over where he went if the team did move him. But if he can't beat out Fields for the job, you have to wonder whether the Steelers would be able to get anything of value from any other team. And
the no-trade clause there is adorable, as if he's like, oh, people are going to be beating down the door and you're going to take the highest offer and sell me off like a mercenary to the highest bidder. Dude, calm down. It's fine. No one's coming. No one's coming knocking.
And so, I mean, I think there's a scenario where Russell Wilson is not on this roster in week 1.
Get ready to learn Raiders, buddy. Russell Wilson. We love Russell Wilson. He didn't make it out of the month of July without, or at least I'm just saying, report about that he might get cut. Like he's not, Dan Graziano's like, I'm not saying it's going to happen or that it's even the most likely. I'm just saying it might happen.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like the more the Steelers get to know Russell Wilson, kidding aside, maybe it has nothing to do with his personality, but just the state of Russell Wilson, the reality of Russell Wilson, the player at what age, 35, 36, just so diminished, zero upside there. I mean, you're basically admitting your offense has zero upside if you're starting Russell Wilson. Justin Fields, we know, is very limited as a passer, I suppose. But there's still at least like that hint, like the possibility, the hope of just some unknown upside still with Justin Fields. And so I take the report seriously that, the Steelers are like, all right, never mind. When we said that he was locked in starter, that was silly. We didn't mean that. Justin, please win this job.
Did we ever discuss or figure out how Justin Fields came into the league? And became became such an inaccurate passer, because by many measurements, he was the most accurate passer in the history of college football. And
that's called a fake conference. The Big Ten doesn't really matter. Yeah,
that's called playing with like 4 first-round receivers, and
we
win a lot of regular season games with them. I mean, we really lock us in for 11 or 12, and no championships, by the way, none while I went to school. It's cool.
I know what Denny was about to say. Say it, Denny.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching the Big Ten on NBC and Peacock, but that's just me.
Boy,
you know.
Just Denny. That's just Denny.
So
I'm just flummoxed by the fact that he's such a bad passer in the NFL.
I mean, to me, accuracy is also part of the issue, but I think it's just the speed of the NFL game and his ability or lack thereof to process it has really been one of the biggest struggles. And even in terms of like not accuracy, but his decision making in the pocket, or again, like almost lack of making a decision, shows up in the sack numbers. His floor in any given game is that he instantly loses you the game because he takes 9 sacks. Like, that's just the floor of a guy who doesn't seem to get the speed of an NFL pass rush and the tempo of an NFL defense. And the highs are still high, but he has like a frequency of floor games that is extremely similar to Zach Wilson. In fact, both he and Zach Wilson are the only 2 guys with more than 5 net adjusted yards per attempt games below 2 since they entered the league. I believe they entered in the same year, but either way, it was 3 years ago. Wow. And games below 1 net adjusted yards per attempt, which is just like a big sack penalty, essentially sacks and turnover penalty. He has more games below 1 net adjusted yards per attempt than Zach Wilson. He also has a lot of fun games, and that does not give him credit for scrambling yards, which obviously he does better than anyone else. But just in terms of the stacking sacks and then mixing in interceptions, he bombs out in more frequently than literally any other quarterback that we have as a potential starter. And so that's the reason I've been terrified to draft him, even as like a 20th round. He goes a little bit before that, like a 20th round pick. because I'm like, he's getting benched. He might get benched twice, like benched. Russell Wilson plays, kind of like then gets back in, benched again. The point you made though, Denny, about does Russell Wilson want to be a backup? Could they just cut him? Actually, like rings very true to me.
Well, I feel like he's gonna have no choice at this point, though. Like you're kind of already at the end of the line if you're on the Steelers with one receiver, and so no. The point of this conversation is no one is really drafting Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. They are at the end of best ball drafts. Well, let's just say theoretically, you guys have a lot of George Pickens and Jalen Warren, quote unquote, bags. Who do you rather have at quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson? Denny?
If I have Russ, I'm sorry. If I have Jalen Warren, which I do, I can't help myself. I know I just had a whole rant about I'm tired of the fancy.
We'll get there. I have this fight penciled in for 20 minutes into the show.
And Warren is a fancy running back, but if I want Russ under center. If I have a lot of Jalen Warren, because I want a bunch of dump offs, and Justin Fields, he ain't reading all that. He's going to simply scamper 6 yards for a first down instead of dump it off.
Well, isn't Russ really famous for not dumping it off too?
He did it a lot last year.
Right, he did it at the highest clip in the NFL.
Last year with Sean Payton. That is the Sean Payton offense. The Sean Payton offense has one play. The playbook says RB pass.
Yeah,
and like the players like, doesn't this need a little more detail? What does RB pass mean? Just figure it out.
And then Alvin Kamara's like, no, guys, I actually think this play's a really good one. Let's do it for the 7th time this game.
Figure it out.
I agree with Denny, not even from the checkdowns perspective, but just from the dropbacks converted to pass attempts perspective. Russ does take a lot of sacks, but Justin Fields is like the sack taking goat right now in the NFL.
Was the OG until Fields. So
yeah, exactly. He still has had issues, but Fields does it just at an unparalleled level.
I feel like I want Fields if I have Pickens and Warren. Russ, it's over, man. It's just over.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's over.
I do like the potential for a Fields Pickens connection. I mean, Fields can sling it. You know, I don't know. If
Mike DeFabo, when he was on the show last week, helping us preview the AFC North, did say like the early buzz was that Russ's skill set, the moon ball, did fit well with Pickens. But I think the Fields deep ball could also fit well with Pickens.
Sure.
So I mean, Fields has a cannon, man. Like Denny said, you watch him play football, you're like, he can sling it. You just need a lot to be put together in a processing sense. I don't think that'll ever happen. But if you just want like ceiling arm talent wise, that guy's very clearly Fields right now. So like I go to bat for a lot of bad players because they're like the 18th or 19th best quarterback in the NFL. And Pat's like, he should be in the CFL. He can't even drag me into a Russell Wilson fight. Like, go ahead. If you want Justin Fields, please, by all means.
Absolutely no point. But follow at Mike DeFabo on Twitter, by the way, if you want some good Steelers news. He was a great guest from the Athletic last week. So I was out of town still as of this morning. So I just did like the teleprompter read when I was introing the show. And I didn't see the Brandon Ayuk CD Lamb thing was actually about Jamar Chase. And Kyle wondering if we can go 3 for 3 on not concerned as Jamar Chase holds in at Bengals camp. He's not practicing like Ayuk and CD. We said last week we weren't really concerned about that. Kyle, are we not concerned about Jamar Chase not practicing in the early days of Bengals camp?
Yeah, it's fine. Among all these guys, like he might be the one I'm least concerned with. Ayuk, I'm not concerned with any of these guys. I am going 3 for 3 on saying their ADP should not move. And if you're in a draft room, I've seen this with Ayuk especially, but if you're in a draft room where they fall 1-2 spots past ADP at, this high in draft capital, that does make a difference. Just take them. Like I would not worry at all. Ayuk is the one, like Pat said, if we have to pick one to worry about, I'd be a little bit Ayuk because they have clear other options that like Debo is really good. George Kittle's really good. Christian McCaffrey's really good. T. Higgins is fine.
Notice you didn't say the first round receiver that they drafted.
We don't know if he's good. I assume he's good.
I'm just saying, I'm saying actually, this is a reflection on the on the 49ers. Like, yeah, sure would be nice if we had any idea if that first round receiver you took was good.
Yeah.
We'll find out in 2 years, maybe 3. I mean, it's the Jordan Love thing. Have him crush for 6 games, then pay him $1 jillion. But Chase falls into the category of like, T. Higgins is good, but you design your offense around Jamar Chase.
Right.
49ers can design their offense around Debo, around CMC. And if like Ayuk missed every snap of training camp, I'd be a little tiny bit worried that he isn't as much of a priority. I can't even muster up that slightest bit of fear for Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb, who the chasm of talent between them and the number 2, especially for CD, but also true of Jamar, is so meaningful that just, I can't bring myself to care.
The only thing I'll say about this situation is that the Bengals are one of those teams. Every training camp, there's a few teams that like just need a normal training camp. Like they had a chaotic year the year before. They had a lot of injuries, a lot of moving parts. And the Bengals are one of those teams last year where Joe Burrow barely played last year. That's not true. He played more than half the game. So missed a lot of time. T. Higgins was injured a lot last year. He's in contract limbo. Tyler Boyd is gone. Joe Mixon is gone. It's perpetual turnover at tight end. And it just seemed like an offense that just didn't need anything weird going on in training camp. And now they do have something weird going on at training camp. And Kyle's right. I'm not worried about like Jamar Chase's like touches or whatever, obviously as targets, but just, I am worried about if say he misses a few weeks of training camp, will the offense just be out of sync? Because the offense was horribly out of sync last year to begin the season after Joe Burrow missed most of camp with his calf. And it's like, will they be out of sync again? That's really the only concern angle for Jamar Chase, Denny. But
I attributed that last year when they came into weeks 1, 2, 3, and I think 4 is finally when they blew up as Joe Burrow still just being like physically limited. Not that he didn't get his practice reps in, but I agree. Like all else being equal, I'd rather everyone just have a training camp where everyone practices in full the whole time.
I think once Jamar sees that he's on the cover of the Rotoworld football magazine,
that's true.
I think that he will do what's right and he'll join his team.
Yeah, 2 years in a row where we've somehow done instantly like, oh yeah, I kind of wish that guy was just having a normal summer. Pick for our magazine cover, Kyle holding it up. It looks so beautiful. Norbert did an amazing job at Lindy Sports. Thank you, Norbert. Please buy our magazine. It's amazing. Part of a Fantasy Life bundle or in the airport or Barnes and Noble, wherever you can buy that sort of thing. I've seen it out in the wild several places. We'll actually stick with the Bengals real quick before we take our first break of the show, where we've been wondering a lot about Chase Brown, Zach Moss and company as we see what Cincinnati tries to do with its post-Joe Mixon backfield. ESPN's Ben Baby, who is so informed on the Bengals, so smart about the Bengals, his takeaways is basically, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. And this was before training camp started. So someone who was as plugged in as he could get with the Bengals just didn't have enough data points. And we now do have some data points where Chase Brown is reportedly taking the majority of the first team reps, Denny. And Denny too. This is what Kyle talking about. Denny's apparently out on fancy running backs, or you want boring running backs with bad metrics. Yeah, you still love Chase Brown, and now the Bengals apparently love Chase Brown. Where's your head at right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have like a religious devotion to boring running backs, but
I would say you have a totally fake devotion to boring running backs.
Look, I think, it's exciting to see highlights of Chase Brown being like the fastest human alive in camp and like Tyreek Hill type fast. And the big plays from last season and the college production.
Not the big play from last season, but yeah.
You always say that he had one big play. He's clearly had several big plays. So that's all cool. But I just refuse to believe that Chase Brown is going to be a 3-down back here. And maybe he doesn't need that to be good for
I don't think he needs to be that. As you pointed out, several big plays. You're not just banking on one for the entire year, 2, potentially 3 big plays. And the more touches we get, assuming that he is disproportionately explosive to the average NFL running back, the more explosive plays we'll get.
Zach Moss was good last year. Again, this is another thing that you dismiss Zach Moss completely. He was good.
It was 2 or 3 games. He was not that good. The second go around, basically, so not like what's the analogy I'm looking for? Basically, he tried to go back home again the second half of the season. Like, I'm gonna have some more good starts, like I did earlier in the year, and then he didn't at all. They were really bad.
All right. Well, look,
Zach Moss.
I'm just warning folks. If you're super excited about Chase Brown, you take him like earlier than his ADP. You're expecting a lot, right? You're going to see Zach Moss diving into the end zone from the 1-yard line. I'm sorry, but it's going to happen. Chase Brown's not getting that action.
I'm trying to think of how to put a bow on this one, and it's Chase Brown has, to Denny's point, Chase Brown has all the makings of a steam all-star. Where it's like he's the classic guy where
it's in the middle of happening right
people
now.
Ignore every bad report, focus, because there's going to be mostly good reports, but there'll be a few like quote unquote bad reports. This is like Chase Brown's been making big plays, but all this Bengal staff just keeps talking about Zach Moss and early downs. Well, like ignore all of that, and it's like cling to the positive reports. And Yeah, all the hallmarks of that.
I mean, I'm much more interested in a guy like Brown in a PPR format for sure. I know that's kind of, not the most insightful.
Yeah, do they even do non-PPR anymore?
Yeah, they do.
They don't do those anymore.
They do standard scoring or half PPR because we want our players to earn their points because we're real NFL GMs, you see.
I'm hearing a lot of stuff about like first down leagues now. I'm actually in an experimental first down league. It's not experimental really, but I'm in the first down league.
I've been in those.
So who are we taking first though? Is it can I comfortably take Chase Brown first? Because my answer to that is obviously yes.
Oh yeah, huge yes. Because Zach Moss is the. I really don't like the cliches, but Zach Moss is the ultimate. What do you even win when you win? Player. Oh wow! 7 touchdowns! Oh my god!
I mean, I think in theory, I'm not playing it this way because I like to have fun. But like, I think in theory, he can be your Jamal Williams, other David Montgomery type. Like he gets a bunch of touchdowns. I mean, David Montgomery was one of the best picks last year because he scored a ton of touchdowns, got a ton of touches. But like, or you could just take Chase Brown, who is fun and also could be the goal line back because he's really good at football.
Moss though he's truly never been good. Like truly,
he was good last year.
2 games to begin the year, he was good. That was it.
This is
even including the games at the end of the year where he totally screwed you in DFS. It was like back to back weeks. It was
it was surely the Zach Moss chalk will hit this week. Yeah, the first time ever the fish have been wrong.
Even including those weeks though, the broad swath of his season, like in totality, was good. Like he was elite in the rush yards over expected metrics and the success rate. But also, like, he got 2 years, $8 million. That's not a giant commitment. And it's not like he is some guy who are like, oh, I am confident over the course of history. This is one of the supreme talents. He's probably good guys get usurped all the time. So
they do.
I know that you asked, what do you win when you win? And if Chase Brown gets dinged up and misses time, Zach Moss is the only game in town. And that means Zach Moss is a locked-in RB1 in all fantasy formats.
Tell that to the Travion Williams truthers. Who's the other dead ender back on this roster?
Chris Evans.
Yeah, they always have 2 dead end backs, Chris Evans and Travion Williams.
Oh my gosh, Travion. The Travion stuff is crazy.
Travion ran for like 2,000 yards at A&M. I'm still stashed. No, I'm just kidding.
In 1994. Oh, yeah. The Heisman runner-up in 1994. It's a good time for a short break. We will be right back after this. The Rotoworld Draft Guide is back, and it has a bit of a facelift, now available exclusively through a new partnership with Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. Get a Fantasy Life Plus subscription and receive the Rotoworld Draft Guide to help you dominate your competition. Use promo code Rotoworld10 for 10% off and unlock extensive fantasy, DFS, and betting tools now. Go to NBCSports.com/fantasylife to learn more. Yeah, I don't think there are any good players in the NFL. It's kind of always just what it comes back to. Never been good. Never been good. Terrible. Never been good.
That is your thing.
It's never been good.
Oh,
Saquon Barkley. No,
unfortunately,
Yeah. Saquon is one of the more vexing, polarizing fantasy superstars of our times. One reason is that he was in so many bad offenses with the New York Giants, just criminally misused in offenses that were going nowhere, most of all last year. Truly rock bottom for Saquon Barkley. He's now in an offense that was elite until the second half of last season where everything went wrong for the Eagles. Kellen Moore, we're wondering if he's a fake sharp or not. He told reporters recently Saquon can, quote unquote, play a lot of different places on the field. A very tried and true summer trope, summer narrative for these running backs. And just like, how much do we care? Because it's true. He does do that. Like, so the implication here is that maybe we'll see some different usage for Saquon, but like, can it really be that different than what it already was? He's caught a lot of passes. Just move the needle for you guys, basically.
No, I'm completely out. I couldn't be more out on Saquon Barkley.
The ADP is like, he's still going ahead of Derrick Henry. Like, why is that ever a thing that happened?
That to me, I don't understand it. I'll just be. Yep. I'm trying not to overstep here. I don't understand that one, folks. No. I think that Henry is a way better play as far as everything, floor, upside, whatever it is you want. Derrick Henry will give it to you more than Saquon Barkley.
I believe he goes ahead of Kyren right now as well. Like
he does that
one quite easily. Like Henry, I'm not even on Henry, but like similar profile, probably better goal line role. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Derrick Henry's also just better, like unequivocally better. Yeah. So
not much, no argument from us to be had on Saquon Barkley. Do we care at all about Will Shipley? The day 3 rookie who was kind of hyped, kind of steamed in the spring. Do we care about the fact that he supposedly is positioning himself to earn number 2 work? I've still seen some Kenneth Gainwell hype though too. From the Eagles press corps. Every Eagles coaching staff. So they have like a big meeting. They have like 40 agenda points on like how are we gonna? What's the team gonna be like this year? How are we gonna do this? And like like Nick Sirianni's about to get into all of it. It's like first off though, he just tears that down, off the whiteboard. It's like here's what really matters this year is getting Kenneth Gainwell the ball on every critical third down and every critical red zone snap.
It never ends.
It never does. And so do we care at all about Will Shipley maybe being the number 2 back? Yes or no?
I think he needs to definitively be the number 2. And like you said, they trust Gainwell and pass pro and 2-minute drill stuff. And
every critical snap of the Eagles season is for some reason played by Kenneth Gainwell.
I mean, I guess when the alternative has been like DeAndre Swift and Miles Sanders, maybe he's like more reliable, quote, sure, whatever. But until Gainwell disappears, the number 2 is a position I don't care about.
All right. No counter take, Denny?
I mean, he's turning heads. There are many heads turning watching Will Shipley at training camp. Beat writers are all about Will Shipley. He's getting first team camp reps, even with Saquon healthy. He got almost all of the first team reps when Barkley was held out on Monday. I don't think for injury purposes, but just rest or whatever. So I'm interested. I mean, Shipley, didn't have a very good final season in college because
he got Wally pipped.
Yes, a fellow named Phil Maffa, Wally pipped him. So we do have to factor that in, but I'm looking at him strongly as a 0 RB bench stash for sure.
Well, it's very normal.
I'll amend my answer.
Clemson. It's very normal to not be able to start at Clemson and then all of a sudden, be really good.
Pretty sure the Phil Maffa guy's good. I think the advanced numbers. I'll have to go back into my my Devi spreadsheets that I don't check ever and see if he was good. But I think he was good. I'll amend my answer though, because I think Denny made a good point. Is that like like we saw on the rest day, if in reality something does happen to Saquon, we're not getting this 1-for-1 replacement like we might be getting with the 49ers backs, which we don't even know right now. Anyways, that we seem like we're getting with Blake Corum. We're probably not getting that. We're getting 30 to 40% of the snaps for Gainwell, but could we get 14 touches or so with Shipley and they just thing where he plays important snaps, but they still let Shipley get a bunch of carries? Yeah, I think that's pretty feasible. So maybe he doesn't truly have like a traditional number 2 lockdown, but he has a more contingent number 2. That's definitely worth a shot in the 18th round of best ball drafts, like even to the 17th and 16th. So you're right. Well, he actually should be on your radar.
Yeah, even a normal redraft. Denny really did make some good points, and he was kind of hinting at one. Like if all 3 of us think Saquon Barkley's ADP is not good, isn't that a classic situation where you then immediately 100%. Start looking at the backup?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, when we were all saying, Saquon, you gross, like not doing that.
Correct.
But yeah, I'm also not interested in Will Shipley. It doesn't really make sense.
I will say traditionally, the Jalen Hurts led Eagles have not been a fantasy friendly environment for running backs, and we've seen that a couple times now. Most recently with DeAndre Swift. So if that holds true, then we might be frustrated with whoever is the lead back for Philadelphia. I do think the Kellen Moore offense will change things up. I mean, hopefully for the better. It'll look way different, and I'm hoping that includes some more pass game involvement for the running backs. But again, mobile quarterbacks not really doing that.
Training camp, there's just such a fire hose of information and content and quotes and like usage patterns, and it can be so hard to know what to actually cling to, what to put stock in when you're drafting. And so we talk a lot in the summer about kind of looking for like a drum beat. And if you keep hearing something over and over again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's real. But I guess, spoiler alert, you look for patterns. Like, wow, that is
it's true.
You hear hearing something twice is better than hearing it once. Yeah. And one drum beat we have been hearing all spring, all summer, is that the Colts, Denny, do not plan to limit Anthony Richardson's rushing usage despite last year's injury woes. He's still the QB5 on Underdog. He'll probably be more about QB8 or 9 on Yahoo and ESPN, maybe even a little lower than that. But is it safe to say we're hearing what we need to hear to remain all in on Anthony Richardson and his dual threat?
Guys, I have to be real about this.
Expecting a yes. was expecting a yes.
I'm really sorry. I have to. I've thought about it a lot recently. I'm out. I'm completely out on
So a guy who was never good and then got hurt 3 times as a rookie. I'm glad to hear at least one person in the industry.
I'm just saying, like because of the ADP, I'm not paying that price. There's just zero chance that I'm going to have Anthony Richardson on any teams this year. Jaden Daniels. Here's the thing about Jaden Daniels. He's going to easily outscore Anthony Richardson. And so I'll take him later.
Kyle, it's actually honestly a compelling take from Denny. My take is more about, I like a guy to complete more than 8 passes against Mizzou. That's all I'll say about Anthony Richardson. I base everything on how they played against my college, of course, in the SEC. What is your take? I thought someone was going to say, yes, this is great. We're hearing he's checking every box that we want. Denny says no. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to compare him to Jaden Daniels because I draft a ton of Jaden Daniels. Like, if you set the bar at my favorite quarterback at ADP, of course, well, I'll just take 100% Jaden Daniels. But, like, it's rare that we get such a good Konami code quarterback these days. The reason Anthony Richardson's priced where he is because we think he has, like, Lamar Jackson level rushing potential and the passing not as good. But, like, if he can approach that level of 900 yards, double-digit touchdowns, maybe. He's so much bigger than Lamar. You kind of expect more touchdown production.
Bigger than everybody.
He's huge, man. He's literally Derrick Henry sized.
Yeah.
That's why he's priced up so much, because I can envision him having an 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season on the ground. And I mean, I love Jaden Daniels, so I don't want to you should draft both of them is the answer. He is expensive, Jaden Daniels. But if you're doing more than one draft, it's okay to be like, I also want to draft the other guy who could rush for a ton of yards and is also an extremely explosive thrower. He's not the most accurate, but is explosive. And he also has less of the red flags than Jaden Daniels had. Jaden Daniels has the kind of Fields-esque flags. I don't know how he's going to process perfectly at the NFL, given how often he took sacks, how often he chose not to throw the football and scramble, where Anthony Richardson is the opposite. He actually does extremely well under pressure. He utilizes his physique, his athleticism to a high degree that almost it's kind of hard to compute because he's not a super accurate short to intermediate thrower. You think he doesn't do the quarterbacky things kind of well, but he actually does the cerebral processing of pressure really well. I think that could insulate him from a lot of the Justin Fields downside level games we see from Fields. I think Jaden Daniels could have, and I still draft a ton of Jaden Daniels, obviously.
What if I told you guys Anthony Richardson went 8 of 14 for 66 yards against Mizzou in 2022? Would you assume Mizzou won or lost this game?
I would assume they won.
No, tell me they lost.
They lost. 24-17. Did nothing. Totally dominated Anthony Richardson, and we still lost.
What was there a Richardson rushing line in that one? Was it good?
Yeah, 5 for 45, no tutters.
Wow, man,
we dominated.
Sorry about that.
I know we dominated the young man, and we still lost. The story of my Mizzou life. The only team we can beat is Ohio State.
Well, JV, but sure.
I don't know, guys. I'm talking about redraft here, by the way. Kyle said take them both, and in best ball, I'm not totally opposed to that, obviously, especially because you can stack Richardson with, Josh Downs and AD Mitchell a little later. I mean, Pittman, if you're willing to pay up like that for that kind of receiver, but that's fine. In redraft, I'm out. I'm just out. I'm not doing that. I'm going to pay up for Allen or Hurts, or I'm going to wait till Daniels. And that's it. That's my whole quarterback.
I love waiting for Daniels. I do think the Daniels steam and hype explosion is coming, and that even in the Yahoo, ESPN home leagues, because his ADP is been unsustainably low all summer. I feel like he's barely been going as a QB1, an underdog, which I just don't understand at all.
Yeah,
we're all on board on this. I hate, Denny, that you had to pit us against a player that we all think is a good pick.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying,
not a good player, but a good pick.
You can replace Richardson's production much later in your draft, and I don't think that unless for some reason the Commanders play Daniels a lot in the preseason and he rips off a couple crazy runs, unless that happens, I could see him staying pretty stable ADP wise.
They might have to play him. He's a welcome to the NFL guy because the way he plays, and it's a totally new staff. It's a staff that hasn't really worked together before, like Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. I get the feeling he might play.
I mean,
I think also the putting all your marbles in the Jaden Daniels basket is like, Denny, if you and I are in a draft room together, good luck. We're racing, like you and I are racing Jaden Daniels.
Right,
and
right.
If you are in a draft room with a single other person that listens to the show, we're all saying how low Jaden Daniels is. That's a reason to explore other options, even if you should try and gauge the odds you get the one guy you want the most.
I'm going to give Denny the final word, but yeah, when you talk about being all in on Jaden Daniels, that's when you see the bank examiner idling outside your home in his Mercedes. Like, I can't wait to get my hands on this. Sorry.
And I'm going to beg the bank examiner to wait until the end of the season, please, before you do what you've sent.
So if you're going to do this, you should have done it when my family was in Greece, so they didn't see this. Like, Daddy, who's this man?
They took half the deck.
Yeah, the deck is gone.
Oh, you poor thing. You've got 2 acres of deck left now.
That's true. That's true.
One of my offseason hobby horses was being scared about Kyren Williams and the doom that was foretold by Blake Corum's selection as the third running back off the board. Again, we're like 5 days into training camp, but Yahoo's Charles Robinson reports that Kyren is the clear number 1 for the Rams heading into the season. I mean, this is just the classic one report. I actually am not very convinced, but just that we haven't seen so far. Kyren has been getting the reports he needs. There hasn't really been any report like, oh yeah, they're envisioning a big role for Blake Corum. He's going to get looks early in the season at the goal line. And just where are you guys at? Are you still concerned about Kyren? Or is this going to be like a laughably overblown narrative where everyone tweets at me all year? Like, why did you say that? Denny.
Go ahead.
No, I was telling you.
I think we're tweeting at you, Pat. I mean, I've like you said, we have gotten all of the right stuff. And we've seen Sean McVay do this in the past. He'll just ride a guy until the wheels fall off. And if you want to say, I don't think Kyren can hold up for 17 games, I'm not confident enough in my ability to predict injuries to say that, but like, I get why you would say it. Not many players are physically capable of taking that beating, but Sean McVay seems to want to give him the shot to do that. And we saw even after he came back from IR last year, he was still a 75%, 80% snap player guy. Like, he has a little bit of room to give just in terms of the overall carries, overall snaps. This is one where, what do you win when you win? The RB2 overall. Like, that's kind of the range we can put him in. Whereas Saquon Barkley, who just said goes before him, I don't feel great about Saquon Barkley ripping off a 20 touchdown season anymore. Like, just the way that this Eagles team is run, I don't think it's awfully likely. Where like Kyren, they not only give him the ball a ton at the goal line, but I mean, this is just an incredible credit to Sean McVay. He faced the most light boxes on 1 and 2 yards to go situations in the NFL last year in terms of overall carries. I remember looking at his next gen stats and I was like, oh, he's getting all these goal line carries. Why has he never faced an 8+ defender box? McVay does a really good job of giving his guys the advantage in a ton of situations. One of them is he just gives his running backs layups at the goal line because he spreads out defenses like, oh, still Kyren run. It works.
Denny, the heat check for you with Kyren Williams and Blake.
Yeah, I guess
a lot of good points from Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you on the Kyren panic, the great Kyren panic of May, whatever it was. But you know, every report indicates that Kyren is at least going to get the chance to be the lead back like he was last year. And then when I was reading about that, something came to mind. I mean, we talked with the Rams beat writer who said that. They were like, this team loves Kyren Williams. Like, you don't understand how much Sean McVay wants Kyren Williams to be the guy. But I was thinking about this little study that I did on quarterbacks who do or don't throw it to running backs out of the backfield. And last year, Stafford was among, league low in first read targets to running backs when Kyren Williams was out, but when he was in, he was near the top. It just spiked. His first read throws to running backs spiked when Kyren Williams was healthy, and that's not a mistake. That's not a coincidence. And so that kind of role is just so valuable, and we're probably going to get a discount cut because of the Corum thing, because of the injuries, because of the chatter about is Kyren still the guy, and I'm good with that.
So the beat writer you mentioned, Adam Grosbard, helped us preview the NFC West. And so, yeah, so far Kyren is holding serve. I just do think – so that's good. I take at face value that he's holding serve. But the point is, when a team uses a third-round pick, again, third running back off the board, you have to continue holding serve. And so I do think he's still in a position where the door can be opened at any moment. But yeah, I think it's clear to say that he has not opened that door, and that Kyren Williams is probably still Kyren Williams to begin the year. We are still the Rotoworld Football Show to begin this next segment, but first we have to take a short break. Experience the Olympics like you have never seen them before. Prime time in Paris, only on NBC and Peacock. I've been absolutely loving our primetime Olympic coverage, as have my children.
Yes.
We watched it every night on vacation. Going to be still watching it every night going forward. My daughter, 8-year-old girl, is very into the gymnastics. Brody Malone, we loved his revival. We love Brody coming back and helping us get the bronze medal.
The gold zone is so good. Like jumping around to different sports. I love that. I'm a big rugby guy, by the way. Now I'm considering becoming a rugby thought leader. Actually.
You've been rugby pilled, huh? Very interesting.
Yeah, I have also water polo pilled. That
water polo. Oof, man.
You want to talk about athletes?
Yes.
Wow.
Pat, you want to talk? I know you said you love the Tour de France because you get to watch everyone suffer. Water polo looks like a physically suffering sport. Those people are animals, man.
I mean, you have to tread water forever, and then you have to sprint back and forth in the water to go get the ball, and then you have to fend off defenders in your face. I mean, I would drown within 90 seconds. I have no.
That's not an exaggeration. Like if you were actually making a genuine effort to play the sport as it's intended to be played, quite literally, my body cannot do it.
And Denny is drowned. And so you want to talk about elite athletes? You also want to think about cheap shot artists. The stuff they do to each other in the pool is like insane.
The underwater cameras catch it all, man.
I know.
That's like dirty. That's dirty business.
I know, it's like NFL line play in the 50s. Like, I'm not really sure he needed to literally stab that person. And for some reason, the ref didn't throw a flag, even though he's literally been stabbed. And water polo is super, super intense. Yeah. You can only find it on the networks of NBC and Peacock. Check it out. You can only find here us talking about Tua Tagovailoa and Jordan Love getting paid. Yeah, now two of the highest paid players in the entire league. Tua, $212 million over 4 years. My God. And Jordan Love, $212 million over 4. Kyle wanted to know, and I'll ask Kyle, is Jordan Love really worth only $8 million more than Tua? Because we've been Tua truthing for quite a long time. Tua, is trying to change his game. He's lost a lot of weight. Yeah, Kyle, I would say Love is worth considerably more than $8 million more than Tua. What say you?
Yeah, I was teeing you guys. I was teeing Denny up for this one. The fact that they're so close, and you look at the spreadsheets and you're like, I don't know. Tua's his EPA machine goes burr, especially if you don't care about the order in which the burr happens. Obviously, last year and the year before that, he was really banged up. The year before that, last year is a bit less of an excuse. It tails off. Seemingly, there's a trend there where it tails off at the end of the season. Those are the games that matter most. Curious, wonder what's going on there. But over the course, especially for fantasy purposes, where we're not as worried about a road game in the playoffs against the Chiefs, Tua's numbers look really good. And I have a lot of faith in his ability to sustain them in probably the early parts of the season. And now we need to see the counterpunch, whereas Love's like almost the exact opposite. I don't know if as a talent, he is the second, third, fourth, fifth best quarterback. I mean, frankly, he's probably not. But is he the fourth, fifth, sixth? I don't know. We saw like 8 good games from him. But if he is that guy, he could literally be the second or third.
That dude.
If he's him, which he looked like he was him for 8 or 9 games, that's a guy worth paying. Whereas Tua is kind of the opposite. I think he can continue to churn the EPA machine in McDaniel's system indefinitely through 17 weeks. Playoffs are a different story. And so there's such different bets.
Yeah, Denny, I was going to say, I'm sure at some point in one of the most important games of his life, Tua will look like he's actually played football before.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I think this is, I used to be a Dolphins fan, as you guys know, long-suffering Dolphins fan, many say. This is a Dolphins thing. This is a team that is acclimated to extremely warm weather, and they, as an organization, have never been able to play in cold weather. This is not new. The Merino Dolphins absolutely folded like a cheap table every single time they had to go to Buffalo or New England or New York or whatever past Halloween. It was over. You just knew it, right? So that's not changing. Like, if the Dolphins don't have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, they're not going anywhere. Everybody can just know that. I think Tua is a great fit for this offense. I also think that there are probably 10 to 12 quarterbacks in the league who would be really great fits, maybe even better fits. In this offense. I'm gonna just pump the brakes a little bit on my Tua skepticism because I want to see skinny Tua. I need to see skinny Tua. Big bone Tua last year that wasn't working.
Couldn't move. Guy didn't run.
Ability to move. Couldn't avoid oncoming rushers. Couldn't even step one step outside of the pocket to make a throw. Okay, so that was him. I mean, Tyreek Hill came out and he was like, "Yeah, man, he's fat. Like he's like that. My man is fat.
Not even an exaggeration.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I didn't really realize. I guess I did it at some point be like, wow, he's kind of thick, but I didn't realize he like got that big. So he's super skinny now. Like he lost a ton of weight. He's almost unrecognizable. So let's see how this version of Tua does. But I don't think that it's going to be a contract that the Dolphins are going to love in the long run. So.
I really do think this should have been. I know why they didn't. It's almost impossible to put your foot down. I really thought the Dolphins should have been the first team to get off this carousel.
I do.
This quarterback hamster and take a stand. Sorry, we're not doing this kind of contract with you. It's just not happening.
We can replace this.
Yes, no offense to Tua, who I did love coming out of Alabama, but just we have not seen it. We have not seen $200 million Tua. Not even close.
People will say this. People will say I'm saying this because he's also left-handed. Now I've really felt like Michael Penix would have been really good in this offense. And they said, well, he's just a lefty. You think any lefty can do this? It doesn't have to do with that. I wasn't thinking who thinks along those lines. I'm just saying a guy who can make the machine go burr. Michael Penix did that at Washington. I think he could do it in Miami easily. Of course, this is just hypothetical now that he's for some reason playing for Atlanta.
For some reason,
he won't be doing much of that, but he's in there, Atlanta.
I did think it was weird when Denny said he thought Mike Weir could be the quarterback. Denny laughing very hard. Kyle, do you have any idea who Mike Weir is?
Nope, not a clue.
Yeah.
He's a Canadian left-handed golfer.
Won the Masters 25 years ago.
I have said that Phil Mickelson obviously could make the EPA machine go burr in Miami.
Could make the EPA machine go burr. Yeah, so Tua is one of the players where I do probably need to check myself at one point where all I've said is negative things. It's impossible not to notice that he has still never elevated anyone else, and he's just been elevated the entire time. And I just feel like you needed to see anything more to be worth this contract for Tua. And like you said, let's see skinny Tua. That is interesting. And it's interesting, very good that he is making big change. Tua clearly understands that he hasn't given enough to be this kind of player. Yes. And so that he's trying to do that. But yeah, it just seems like
if he can break the pocket like a Brock Purdy, that's the difference. Purdy can get outside the pocket, can make a couple things happen. Jimmy Garoppolo would not do that. And Tua is way more like Garoppolo than he is like Purdy. If he can get more like Purdy, I think it could be interesting as far as his contract goes.
That's a really, really good point. Really, really. No, what? I'm trying to read the next topic. Royce Freeman. Anyways, Kyle's making a joke here about Royce Freeman. Apparently, he could be the number 2 Cowboys running back.
Yeah.
Which I guess we do care about a lot, right? I'm trying. Who's the Cowboys number 1? Is it Zeke still?
Zeke? Yeah, it's Zeke right now.
God. Yeah. So the Royce Freeman stuff, we actually got to care about this. We have to take this seriously. Who wants to go first on Royce Freeman? Denny is waving. Tell the folks what we need to know about Royce Freeman currently being the number 2 back, which could mean he's the number 1 back because Zeke could be just total dust.
So here's what Stephen Jones, the executive vice president of the Cowboys and, of course, son to Jerry Jones, said about Royce Freeman. He said that he can't believe that Royce Freeman was available in free agency. And he went on to say he's been really impressed. That Freeman has really impressed coaches this offseason. Freeman, according to Jones, is, quote, a great 2 to 3 combination in terms of what he can do as a backup. He's a big guy, a thick guy, and he's a hell of a special teams player as well. That's
I'm out.
Wait a second. Wait, it's not done. It's not done. He'll be a good addition and a great compliment to Ezekiel Elliott.
Shortest episode of Shark Tank you've ever seen. We're out.
Yeah, the game gets given away the second the S and the T words get put together.
It's still going. And then we'll let these young guys, meaning Malik Davis and Rico Dowdle, and
we're betting on the old guy. I'm out. I'm out again.
Battle it out. So I think what this says is Rico season's over. That's not happening, obviously. No. I actually wanted to talk about this on the show because it's Zeke's season. Like, there's no stopping it now. That you have to accept it. Like, we're going to be on this show in week 4 being like, oh, Zeke has like the worst rush yards over expected in the league history and this and that, and he's RB4 in PPR. Like that's gonna happen. Royce Freeman's not gonna chip away at all at Zeke's workload. We have to accept this.
Zeke's gonna be at the Bavarian Water Park by week 8. It is indoors. It is indoors, and he went to Ohio State. This is just up the road in Michigan. He's going to be at the Bavarian Water Park. And
I was going to say, they've got to play the Lions at some point. You got to imagine the plane ride back. Like, guys, where's Zeke? Where's Zeke? And they call him up, Zeke, where you are? And he's like, I'm going on the water slide.
I feel like every report I've seen with the Cowboys backfield is still just like enter yet another random veteran. Royce Freeman, we are getting warmer. Because I think we talked about that several times. Like, dude, listen, the lead Cowboys back might not even be on the roster right now. You're taking this as strengthening Zeke's hand. I am almost taking the opposite. Like I don't think it's great for Zeke that Stephen Jones is acting like so thankful that Royce Freeman was available. We just thank God that Royce Freeman was out there. Like, I'm not trying to get religious, but like we thank God that Royce was available. I'm just telling you the truth that we cannot believe this young man. Someone whispered he's 32. Royce Freeman was available. And that's not great for Zeke.
We cannot believe this experienced man is available to us.
I heard special teams. I'm like, all right, yeah, never mind.
I mean, when he said we couldn't believe he was available, I was like, okay, whatever he's saying is a lie. Don't care. Because you couldn't believe he was available after he's been cut 4 times in the past 3 seasons. That means one team had to cut him twice. Like, no, I'm not doing it. No.
I'm not.
Maybe,
I'm not
like
saying...
Pat said, this is an indictment of the backs they currently have.
Right.
But I mean, to me, this just strikes me as like, oh, the Joneses, famously like incredible predictors of talent and narrators of the course of their own team. No, I'm just not going to believe it yet.
Yeah. I just want to be clear for the folks listening. I'm not going to draft Royce Freeman on any team this year. Best ball, redraft, whatever. I'm not going to do that. I don't care about Royce Freeman. I do care about Ezekiel Elliott, who is going pretty late, I think, for a lead back in the NFL, especially one who's going to be catching passes.
I do think it's still I'm not trying to do a bit here. I think calling Zeke like the lead back is still like a bit of a
really
misnomer. Yeah, I do. He was god awful.
Yeah, he was
atrocious.
Yeah,
he was as inefficient as possible as a runner for the Cowboys 2 years ago. He was almost that level as a receiver for the Patriots.
He was hurt 2 years ago. Give Zeke a break.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the legs are just totally gone for Zeke.
And let him eat. Yeah. Let him eat. I'm buying a spoon. I'm
like, will Zeke even make the team? I mean, I think he probably will.
Oh, he's making the
team. Wait a second.
He could just be one of those guys who's totally done. He could just be totally.
Are you saying is Ezekiel Elliott going to make Jerry Jones's team?
That's a good point. Yeah.
It's his favorite player ever.
It is. It is. I think that might not even be an exaggeration somehow.
No, probably not. As Zeke goes, we go, as the old saying was for years in Dallas.
It's like Jerry Jones has had like 10 Hall of Fame careers somehow since he took over the Cowboys in like 1990. And Zeke
by the way, this is a huge turn for me. I've spent my entire fantasy career saying Ezekiel Elliott's bad, and now I like that he's bad. And because I won them on my
he's
team.
Finally bad enough to be on your teams.
I mean, for me, for this backfield, I don't mind as much that he's not talented anymore because I don't really see anyone in this backfield being particularly talented. This is kind of the point we circled on with the Saints last week, where I was like, I'll cut you some slack on talent not mattering as much when there's not a talent differential. And that's true of this team, likely. Maybe Rico Dowdle has some juice, but he's a veteran who's done very little through 3 or 4 years, whatever. So in this scenario, yeah, Zeke's probably getting a lot of touches, but I do think, to sort of Pat's point, what do you win when you win? He's not talented enough to become the RB2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. I'm sort of open.
Then you're in.
Maybe he could be the 12 because he plays 17 games. He runs good on touchdowns, and I am drafting Zeke because of that. But let's not push the envelope too much. he is not good enough to be a league winner. He's good enough to be a great pick on a 0 RB team.
I think total PPR points, Zeke will finish outside the top 30.
What?
Yeah, not even per game. I just think total he'll finish
outside the top 30.
Yeah.
I mean, so he'd have to miss like 7 or 8 games.
He's mothballed by week 8 or whatever. I don't think
I would take him inside the top 30, but not by a lot. I'm on your side more so, Pat, because he's mothballed. He's like, we have seen him turn to dust. He just is not good enough to be a high end or medium end contributor. He's good enough to be a snap soaker, which can be the RB 18. 15.
Well, it's good that we're setting up a hinge point player because we need people that we disagree violently on. Final word on Zeke to Denny.
I just want to say, producer Tim, clip this, and I want to see this in 2 months. Thank you.
And producer Adam, we love you. We know you're in Olympics jail. You're having a tough time right now. But we'll talk to you soon. They'll let you talk to your family soon. They promise. They promise. We got to end the show with one final topic. One Denny wanted to talk about, a really interesting topic. And the Browns supposedly wanting to increase their tempo in 2024. But kind of also the last thing you see before you admit your quarterback is bad. Like, we want to play faster this year, Just like, not put so much into Sean's plate. Just have him get up there and snap the ball. What do you think? What do you make of the talk that the Browns want to increase their tempo today?
Yeah, I mean, so Ken Dorsey is the new offensive coordinator for
Did he do
Browns.
anything wrong previously?
Yes.
He did nothing wrong, except for have Tyler Bass miss a field goal. But although Kevin Stefanski's still going to call the plays, but Dorsey was brought in to quote because quote he's better in the drop back game, the RPO game, and really kind of expanding our use of motion in our core concepts, and also increase our tempo. Now, I don't really know how that's going to work, seeing that the Browns were top 5 in offensive tempo last year, and they led the entire NFL in plays per game. It was actually incredible. No matter who the quarterback was, they ran 1 million plays per game. So it was actually 70, and which is crazy, which is a lot.
It is a lot.
So I don't know if this factors in a lot, but say they get like top 3 or even like the top team as far as tempo goes, that produces a lot of plays. That'll continue to produce a lot of plays. I think part of the reason Njoku and Cooper last year were good for fantasy was because there was just a lot of offensive volume every single week, no matter what. We like that. So if they keep that up, we have to factor that into how we see these players.
Denny, I think you just made the perfect point. The pertinent takeaway from this is basically an indication they want to keep their tempo. Like, they're not talking about like slowing it down this year. Like, we'll be more methodical.
Right.
Like, so maybe they can't realistically increase the tempo, but they are clearly still fans of the tempo. And
we love our tempo.
We love our tempo. We love our Rotoworld football show. We love Denny's family not leaving him so he can go get them from the airport.
That's right.
We love that.
Denny has to leave. He has to go to Dulles International Airport, a very fine airport, people are saying. Everyone loves it. No one's ever had a bad experience there.
It's not going to take me 2 hours to get there.
No, it won't. So really, really good stuff today from Kyle and Denny. Really good stuff coming up on Thursday. We're going to have some special guests previewing the NFC North, including MLive.com's Ben Raven, to talk about not the Ravens, but the Lions. So another preview show, going to be amazing stuff. We also have a special Packers guest, Jason Hirschhorn, didn't he?
Hirschhorn, yeah, Jason Hirschhorn.
Jason Hirschhorn, 2 really interesting teams and maybe the most interesting division in football. So stay tuned for that in 48 hours. Keep it locked to Rotoworld.com, where the training camp updates continue to come hot and heavy. So for Denny, for Kyle, and Pat, thanks for listening. We'll be back in 48 hours.